that they left me to die as a child, and I was homeless as a child, and I hated them so much for it, and it made me hate myself. Eventually, I learned to realize that I was pretty cool and I was in the wrong environment, and the people that I was trying to impress weren't shit. Um, and then I used to rampage, and I'd go hit the gym, and I would do bodybuilding and work 3 jobs and make music all day and try to be the best at everything. And eventually, I learned to just be, and then I learned how to just sit and enjoy the guitar. And now the songs I make are so much better because I stopped running and chasing something, and I just accepted where I was and got over the things I had no control over. And then I just started doing things I wanted to do, and eventually I grew through experience to really value myself. You know, maybe it's your environment that's making you hate yourself and your daily habits. It's not you. Like, one of the biggest things I learned in homelessness was the destruction of my ego. Like, eventually I learned that the self that I thought I hated wasn't even me. I was looking through myself at a created version of myself that I hated. And then eventually when that all dissolved and I was who I always was, you can't hate that because it's impossible to hate that. You literally can't hate that. If you even started to hate that, it wouldn't work. It would just create a version to hate. It wouldn't be you. You'd be watching you hate yourself. I think it's impossible to hate yourself, but it is possible to not love yourself because you're distracting yourself. Usually when I find myself, I always have this urge. Like, there's something that as soon as I find myself, there's something I want to do, which usually is immediately start imagining a song. That's called your soul urge. Like, when you find yourself and there's something you need, whether that's work out or paint or call a friend, that soul urge of something that feels way more bright and way better than all this other stuff. The more you put into that, it seems to just destroy everything, but it takes bravery. Like, one time, how I beat that was I went to Old Orchard Beach and I walked up to everyone and just said whatever I wanted to say. Whatever I wanted to say, I said, even if it was embarrassing. And what happened was, the first thing I wanted to do after that, the first, like, urge when I was my true self, is calling my horrible, abusive ex-girlfriend and saying, I'm not even mad at you. I forgive you for what you did. I understand where you came from. And she was like, are you calling me just to say that you're doing, she thought I was bragging because I was so excited about where my life was at. And then it was like everything changed. And I realized, like, that urge made me realize that the things I hated about myself wasn't even me. It was the projection of what I thought about myself based on how she treated me. So that was the perfect thing to do. It identified where the self-hate was coming from. It wasn't me, it was programmed into me. I was still a child, just with no opinion of self and just acting on impulse what I wanted to do. At some point, somebody said something that changed how I thought about myself, but it wasn't me. It was a change in your belief system about yourself, but it had nothing to do with what was inside. So if you don't have that, the best way to find yourself, I think, is to just let it all go in the woods for as long as it takes. And if, just be there. And eventually you'll start to operate purely on what you want to do, because there's nothing else. Like, I wanted, eventually being out there in the woods long enough, all I wanted to do was just sit there. And then I wanted to get up and go on a walk. And then I wanted to go to the grocery store. And then I wanted to go sit by the river. And I would just do that. And then none of the self-hatred even hit me. I didn't even think about it anymore because I was just doing what I wanted to do. It was like other people's perceptions and expectations of me that were like guiding me and my need to. I hated myself because I felt I wasn't good enough for something that I always had, basically. Hopefully that helps. Is that the thing that, like, if you wished you were better, what if all the things you hated about yourself changed? And usually people find out that none of that made a difference. You're like, oh, I wouldn't hate myself if I was buff. And I'm like, no, you'd feel the same way. If you just imagine yourself buff, you'll still feel the same way. So then you recognize it has nothing to do with it, and then you want to get buff. for a different reason. And then you usually go through with it because that self